Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Joe here with Deranged. So when the 2021 Commander was announced, the first thing that came to my mind personally was how does this thing compare to the current leader of the pack, which is the Polaris General XP. After the most recent updates for the 2022 models with the new clutching and whatnot, I thought it was a good time to do a comparison video between the two models, to take a look at the specs and dig into how does the Commander compare to the General. In this case, we're going to look at how the Commander XTP compares to the General XP, not the lowest end General model and not the lower end Commander models. Some of the specs will be pretty similar and some are going to be quite different. But with that said, let's jump into it and take a look at how these two models compare.
Easy peasy, man.
Okay, to get it out in the open out front, I am not going to tell you which model that you should buy. The purpose of this video is to give you the details of each machine, some thoughts on a few characteristics of them, and let you decide which model you think is the best machine for you. So with that said, let's take a look at a few things. First, we're going to start with styling. Now, as we all know, styling is pretty subjective for the most part. There are machines out there, C-Force 900 or whatever it's called, that are just plain ugly and objectively not good looking rigs. And then for the most part, everything else is, up to your own taste. I say that a little lightheartedly. I'm sure there are a few folks, and we'll probably hear from at least one in the comments, that likes the C-Force Moto 900 or whatever that thing is called. With that said, there's a few things that I like about the Commander and a few things that I like about the General. One thing I like about the Commander is it is a little bit more aggressive looking. To me, it has just a little bit more of an aggressive style. With the General, there are some tried and true color options that they have that just look great, especially if you look at the new Trailhead model, I think is what they call it, which has a great new colorway with some cool options on it. So both these rigs to me are kind of good looking rigs, and as far as the sport utility rigs go, they're probably the best looking of the bunch. Again, styling is subjective, so you decide which one you think is the better looking one. That's really a decision that's up to you. Now let's talk about performance. So one thing that I noticed when I was compiling the statistics for these two machines and kind of looking at them side by side, or when I say two machines, I guess let me clarify, I mean four machines, both the 2-seat and 4-seat models. But when I compiled all the statistics together, I was really surprised to find how closely matched they are. Both rigs, or all four anyway, have 100 horsepower. The Can-Am model does have other options kind of on the lower end for the 52 horsepower, 54 horsepower, whatever it is. Single cylinder motor, 720, 750, whatever they're calling it. But these four rigs, they all have this 1000cc, 100 horsepower motor in them. If you look at the length of the machines, the Can-Am Commander is quite a bit longer than the Polaris General. The Commander comes in at 130 inches long for the 2-seat compared to 118 inches long for the 2-seat General. And then for the 4-seaters, you're looking at 160.4 inches for the Commander, and you're looking at 150.2 inches for the General. So you're going to get a longer rig when you're looking at the Commander. And one place where that's a concern, and it's related to performance, is the breakover angle. So the wheelbase on these rigs, the wheelbase that you have for the 2-seat General is 83 inches, while when you look at the Commander 2-seat, it's at 90.6 inches. So a full 7.5 inches longer for that breakover angle on your 2-seat. When you look at the 4-seat models, you've got a wheelbase on the General XP4 of 115 inches. And when you look at the Commander XTP 4, you've got a wheelbase of 120.6 inches. So you've got a full, almost 6 inches longer on your wheelbase for the 4-seater. What that means is you have a worse breakover angle in the XTP. So when you're going over obstacles or rock crawling, for instance, you might find yourself bottoming out more often in the XTP than you do in the General XP4. Before I talk about horsepower and suspension, I just want to real quick mention the weight of each of these rigs. So The two-seat General XP is coming in at 1,690 pounds, while the Can-Am is coming in at 725 pounds. So just a little bit heavier for the two-seat. And if you look at the four-seat models, the General comes in at 2,058 pounds, while the Can-Am comes in at 2,000 pounds even. This is the claimed dry weight from the manufacturer. Once you get fuel in it and everything else, obviously it's going to change a little bit from there. But those are your weights for these rigs. All of them are pretty evenly matched within 40, 50 pounds tops between them. Let's talk about horsepower now. So everybody's always concerned about horsepower. How much power am I going to get in my rig and everything else? Well, both of these rigs, or all four of them anyway, come in at 100 horsepower. Polaris claims that they are the class leader or have class leading horsepower, and they also make a few other claims for class leading. But if you look at the statistics and compare them right next to each other, they're all basically the same. So are they the class leader? Yeah. But are they also tied with Can-Am? They're also tied with Can-Am. So yes, very evenly matched as far as horsepower goes. Both honestly are going to be great power for most riders out there. There are turbo options in the aftermarket for the Polaris version. I don't think there's anything for the Can-Am yet, but it's something to consider. I think both of these rigs, or all four of them, have the right amount of power for the rig that you're buying. Not every rig needs to have 200 horsepower, and I think these are sitting at 100, and that's a great number for the type of rig you're getting. Okay, let's talk about the suspension on these rigs. So we'll start with the shocks. The shocks on the General XP are Walker Evans shocks. They're Velocity version shocks. They're a good shock that Polaris has used for a long time now, I guess. They're not piggyback on the two-seat, but on the four-seat version, they are piggyback shocks. One thing it does not mention on the website is whether or not those shocks are adjustable. I'm sure one of you knows, and you can share the answer in the comments down below. Speaking of sharing your answer in the comments down below, if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. It helps us continue to grow the site and be able to provide you more content like this. Now to the shocks on the Can-Am Commander. The two-seat version comes with Fox Podium QS3 shocks. It comes with 2.5s on the front, 2.5s on the back, and the back shocks on the two-seat model are piggyback. For the four-seat version of the XPT, all four shocks are 2.5s and all of them are QS3s. And all of them are piggybacks as well. So you got a great shock from Fox on the Can-Am XPT as well. Let's talk about suspension style. So the general versions, they both have dual A-arm suspension, both front and rear. And in the Can-Am, you have front dual A-arm suspension, while the rear comes with what they're calling arched TTA, or torsional trailing arm system. It's basically like a dual A-arm suspension that is just kind of slanted to the back or leans to the back further. So it's not, instead of being straight out, it kind of comes to the back a bit. That's the easiest way to describe it. If you'd like further information on how the torsional trailing arm system works, I'd refer you to Can-Am and their website. As for travel for these rigs, across the board, they're all 100% the same. You are looking at 14 inches of travel, front and rear, all four rigs. Which, to be honest, is actually a pretty decent number. 14 inches of travel is almost as much as I have on my Honda Talon, and it's more of a sport machine than these ones are. So decent travel. It is the A-arm suspension, however, but again, it's decent travel for this style of rig. If you look at clearance, that's another place where they match. So the clearance on the general models is the same as the clearance on the Commander models, and that's 13.5 inches of clearance. And that's as long as you have those stock 30-inch tires on, which brings me to tires. Both of them have 30-inch tires, with the Can-Am coming with XPS Hammer Force tires, which are less kind of aggressive looking and more trail looking, I guess you'd say. And then the General comes with Pro Armor Crawler tires that are also 30 inches. So that's it for the suspension. So they're pretty closely matched. I mean, your travel numbers, your ground clearance, that kind of stuff is pretty much the same. The big difference being is what kind of shocks you have. You have your Walker Evans shocks in the Polaris, and you have your Fox QS3 shocks in the Can-Am. So really, it's kind of preference. Both have their pros and cons. It's kind of up to you to decide which of those brands and styles you like better. I've always had good luck with Fox. I personally don't have a Walker Evans rig, so I can't really speak on personal experience to their performance, but I will say I haven't heard a ton of bad about them. Okay, next I want to talk about versatility. So both of these rigs are basically designed to be a sporty utility rig. With the dump bed and with the payload that they have and the towing capacity that they have, they're really designed to get you out in nature, get you hunting, get you fishing, get you camping, overlanding, all that kind of stuff. That's what these rigs are really designed for. The payload on all four of the rigs is the same. You're going to be able to get 600 pounds of cargo in the bed of each one of these. They all four of them have dumping cargo beds, and they all hold 600 pounds. Towing capacity, there is a little bit better or a little bit more of an advantage for the Can-Am version. You get 2,000 pounds of towing capacity in the Can-Ams, while you only get 1,500 pounds of towing capacity in those Generals. So if you're looking to tow, heavy loads or do a lot of towing with your rig, it might be better to consider the Can-Am. If it's not as important to you, then look at the Polaris. And then one cool thing that kind of still is around in these rigs and is around in a lot of rigs that you use for utility, hauling wood, doing things around your property, all that kind of stuff. All four of these rigs, they have turf mode. So that allows you to save your grass, save your turf from getting tore up by wheels being locked together when you're making turns and whatnot. So all four of these rigs come with turf mode, which is a pretty cool feature for these, kind of multi-purpose utility, sport utility type machines. Okay, now let's talk value. So one thing about the Can-Am line is it is definitely more broad than the Polaris line. You have 750 or 720, I forget the CC, I think it's 750, but you have 750 versions of these machines that start as low as $15,500, something like that. So you have a much lower entry point to get into a Commander. However, it's not going to have all the same features that you'll have as the General or as the higher end Commanders. But you do have that kind of lower entry point. So there is opportunity, I guess you'd say, for value in there in building those things out. Okay, let's take a look at the prices for these models, get a real idea of the cost, and maybe we can make some conclusions based on the value of these rigs. So if you look at the General, the two-seat version, the base price, kind of first entry into the XP, the General XP versions, you're looking at $23,699 for the base or the first version. If you go to the top end or the best of the best, you're looking at $26,699 for your two-seat General XP. If you look at the two-seat version of the Commander, you're looking at $22,699, and there really is nowhere else to go up from there. So your entry into the XTP and your exit at the XTP are the same thing. You're looking at $22,699 for the two-seat version. Now let's take a look at the four-seaters. So the General XP four-seater, you're looking at an entry at $25,699 for your four-seat. If you go to the maxed out model with everything you have, I think they call it a factory special edition or something like that, you're looking at $28,699. You do get a ton of different accessories for that. You get kind of a custom look to your rig. You get some bumpers. You get a roof. You get a system. You get a Rockford Fosgate stereo system. And you get Ride Command. If you have seen any of our videos on our Razor Pro XP build, you know that we dig the Ride Command system. Think it's a great system. Think Can-Am is kind of lagging behind on where they're at with that. And think the other manufacturers have a lot of room to grow when it comes to the electronics that come inside their machines. We think the Ride Command brings a lot of value. But like I said, you're looking at $28,699 for your high-end four-seat General. That's your top of the top, cream of the cream. Now for the four-seat Commander, it's the same story as the two-seat. Your entry and exit in the XTP version is $24,699. So that is the price. That's where you're at for your four-seat version. Comes with quite a bit of cool accessories on it. But there is no kind of lower version of the XTP and higher version of the XTP. Like I mentioned earlier, Can-Am does have models down the line below it that come in at a different price point and provide less options, less accessories. I didn't feel it was fair to compare those with the General XP because the General XP kind of is in a category above the standard General, and I wanted to make sure we're comparing apples to apples here. So what's the verdict? Well, these are two or four very evenly matched machines. Your two seats and your four seats are pretty dang close as far as the specs go. Price is a little bit of a different story. There's a little bit, you're looking at less money out the door if you're going to go with a Can-Am than you are if you're going to go with the General. What you need to decide is whether or not you want the options that come with that general XP. Whether you want ride command or you want an audio system that comes with your rig, that's really the decision you need to make. If that's worth it to you to have those built in and come from the factory, then that might be the direction you want to go. If that's not worth it to you and you feel like you just want to save some coin, then maybe lean towards the Commander. But like I said at the beginning of this video, my goal here isn't to tell you which machine to buy. That's up to you. My goal is to provide you with the information to kind of help you make that buying decision. With that said, if we have played a part in your buying decision, whether it's for this rig or any other rig, let us know in the comments below or shoot us an email. We absolutely would appreciate it. We have some communication with some of these manufacturers, which has been great so far for us. We'd love to get more going, and we know that if they know you're watching, then we're more likely to be able to get some access with them and work with them and basically get some hands-on time with their machines so we can provide that information to you and help you make a better buying decision through your buying process. Before I close out, I did put together a comparison of these two machines, just the statistics, not all of them, just kind of what I felt is important. I will leave a link to that breakdown or that comparison in the comments section down below, or in the description down below anyway. It'll be on our website. You'll be able to go and kind of take a look side by side what these things look like side by side on a spreadsheet if you'd like to. So I'll link that in the description down below. With that said, guys, that's it for this one. Ride safe, pack out what you pack in, and we'll see you on the next one.
Just gonna say it, I'll say it. You never knew what love was, you lived your life.